Cynthia Namdi had been working as a cleaner for exactly 4 hours when she made her first mistake. She looked the CEO directly in the eyes. Her second mistake. She didn't look away. Kong Dae-van stood in his office doorway with blood on his designer shirt cuffs, and Cynthia knew exactly what that meant. She'd walked into something she wasn't supposed to see. Something people disappeared for. She should have apologized. Begged for her job. Played scared or even run away instantly. Instead, she heard herself say, "You missed a spot." The most dangerous man in New York's underworld went completely still. Then he smiled, slow and lethal. "You're either very brave or very stupid." Cynthia lifted her chin. "I'm a lot of things, Mr. Kong. Scared of you isn't one of them." She expected violence, a bullet. Maybe a one-way trip to the Hudson River. What she didn't expect was for the Korean Mafia king to drop to one knee right there in the hallway, pull out a black velvet box, and say the words that would destroy everything she'd planned, "Then marry me." But before we dive into this explosive romance, if you love dark Mafia stories with fearless heroines who bow to no man, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you never miss our steamy updates. Drop a comment telling me, would you defy a Mafia boss on your first day? Now, let's get into Cynthia's dangerous world. 12 hours earlier, the March wind cut through Cynthia's second-hand coat as she stood before the obsidian tower that housed Kong Industries. 53 floors of glass and steel that the tabloids called the Korean Crown, and the streets called something else entirely, the headquarters of the most powerful Korean-American crime syndicate on the East Coast. Cynthia adjusted the fake glasses perched on her nose, part of her carefully constructed disguise, and checked her reflection in the polished doors. Her natural hair was pulled back into a simple bun, her makeup minimal, her clothes deliberately cheap. Everything about her screamed invisible, forgettable, beneath notice. Perfect. Cleaning crew entrance is in the back, a security guard sneered without looking up from his phone. "Can't you read?" Cynthia bit back the sharp retort dancing on her tongue, the one in the 3 languages she spoke fluently, courtesy of her MIT education and her family's international connections. Instead, she ducked her head and mumbled an apology, playing the role. Because Cynthia Namdi hadn't spent 3 years planning her infiltration into Kong Industries just to blow it in the first 5 minutes over some racist security guard. The service entrance smelled like industrial cleaner and old coffee. A tired-looking woman with a clipboard barely glanced at Cynthia's forged credentials before shoving a uniform into her arms. "You're on executive floors. 48 through 53, the supervisor said, already turning away. "Don't touch nothing you don't have to. Don't look at nobody. Don't speak unless spoken to. The executives don't like distractions." The way she said it, with a meaningful look at Cynthia's dark skin, made the message crystal clear. "Understood," Cynthia said softly, though inside, anger simmered. Let them underestimate her. She'd been underestimated her entire life, and she'd turned it into her most lethal weapon. The executive floors were everything she'd expected: cold opulence, hushed power, and the kind of wealth that came from both legitimate business and very illegal activities. Kong Industries officially dealt in luxury cosmetics, real estate, and tech investments. Unofficially, they controlled half the underground trade routes in the Northeast and had politicians, judges, and police chiefs on their payroll. And somewhere in these pristine halls was the evidence Cynthia needed to destroy them. She started in the conference rooms on the 48th floor, mapping exits and camera positions while she dusted and mopped. Her photographic memory cataloged everything: the facial recognition panels, the fingerprint locks, the locations of the panic buttons disguised as decorative elements. New girl. Cynthia turned to find a woman in a designer suit looking at her like she was something stuck to her shoe. Her name tag read, Minesio Park, VP of Product Development. "Yes, ma'am. The CEO's office needs to be cleaned. Now." The regular girl called in sick, and Mr. Kong demands perfection. Minesio's lips curled. "Think you can handle that, or should I request someone more experienced?" The CEO's office. 53rd floor. Exactly where Cynthia needed to be, handed to her like a gift on her first day. "I can handle it, ma'am," Cynthia said, keeping her eyes down. "You'd better. Mr. Kong isn't tolerant of mistakes." Minesio's voice dropped to a whisper. "And between you and me, He's in a particularly dangerous mood today. There was an incident with a supplier who thought they could cheat him. So whatever you do, stay invisible and get out fast. Cynthia's heart hammered as the private elevator shot up to the 53rd floor. This was it. She'd have maybe 20 minutes in Kong Devan's office while he was supposedly in a meeting downtown. 20 minutes to find something, anything, that connected him to the contaminated cosmetic shipment that had destroyed her mother's community clinic 3 years ago. The shipment of luxury Korean face creams that had been laced with toxic chemicals, causing permanent scarring and illness to over 40 women, mostly poor women of color who'd received them as charity donations. The shipment that Cynthia had traced back to Kong Industries through 3 shell companies and countless dead ends. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. And Cynthia stepped directly into hell. The office was empty, just as Intel suggested it would be. But it wasn't the panoramic view of Manhattan or the artwork that made Cynthia freeze. It was the blood. Droplets of it, leading from the chrome and leather desk to a private door she assumed led to a washroom. Fresh blood. Still gleaming. The incident with a supplier. Cynthia's hands trembled as she pulled out her cleaning cart. She'd known what Kong Dae-van was. But knowing intellectually that the devastatingly handsome Korean CEO who graced Forbes covers was also a killer was different from seeing the evidence. She had maybe 5 minutes before whoever he'd dealt with was discovered. She needed to work fast. The desk drawers were locked, but Cynthia had learned to pick locks when she was 12, courtesy of her uncle's alternative skills lessons. The first drawer held nothing interesting. The second contained a burner phone, useful, but not enough. The third. Most people knock before entering private offices. Cynthia's blood turned to ice. She spun around to find Kong Dae-van leaning against the private door she'd been watching, very much not at a meeting downtown. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe 32, 33, with the kind of face that belonged on screens and magazine covers. Sharp jawline, intense dark eyes, black hair styled with calculated carelessness. His white shirt was rolled up at the sleeves, and yes, there was definitely blood on his cuffs. He should have been terrifying. He was terrifying. But Cynthia had spent 3 years preparing for this moment, and she'd be damned if she'd fall apart now. "I'm so sorry, sir," she said, forcing her voice into a tremor. "I was told to clean your office. I can come back. You're new." He moved with predatory grace, circling her like she was prey. "I know everyone who works in this building. I don't know you." "First day, sir." Cynthia, she caught herself. She'd been about to give her real name. Cynthia Johnson. His eyes, God, they were like chips of black ice, traveled over her slowly. Assessing. Calculating. "You don't move like a cleaner, Cynthia Johnson." Her pulse hammered. "I don't know what you mean, sir." "Don't you?" He was close now, too close, and she could smell his cologne, something expensive and dangerous. "You stand like someone with military or combat training. Your eyes have been cataloging every exit and potential weapon in this room since I appeared. And your hands." He caught her wrist, his grip iron wrapped in silk. "These aren't the hands of someone who scrubs floors for a living. Calloused, yes, but in the wrong places. So let's try this again, Cynthia. Who sent you?" This was it. The moment where her mission ended in failure or worse. Cynthia could play it safe. Break down, confess to lying on her resume, beg for mercy. Or she could do what she did best, gamble everything. She met his eyes directly, letting all the pretense drop from her expression. "Nobody sent me. And you know what? I'm tired of playing scared. Yes, it's my first day. Yes, I'm a cleaner. But I'm also the woman who just watched you track blood across your $1 million carpet, and instead of asking if I need this job, I'm going to tell you something nobody else in this building has the spine to say." His eyebrows rose fractionally. "Oh. You're sloppy. Whatever you did in that bathroom, you left evidence everywhere. There's blood spatter on the underside of your desk that your regular cleaning crew has been missing for God knows how long. There's a partial fingerprint on that whiskey glass, and unless I'm wrong, those aren't your fingers." And she glanced at the air vent. Your ventilation system is pulling whatever you're trying to clean up in that bathroom through the entire floor. In about 15 minutes, someone's going to smell it. The silence that followed was deafening. Kang Dae-van stared at her like she was a puzzle that had just rearranged itself into something completely unexpected. Then, slowly, he smiled, and it was the most dangerous thing Cynthia had ever seen. "You're right," he said softly. "About all of it. Which means you're either exceptionally observant or you have experience with cleanup. I'm observant. And I'm good at my job, whatever that job is." Cynthia pulled her wrist free, her heart screaming at her to run even as her mind stayed laser-focused. "So here's my proposal, Mr. Kang. You can kill me for seeing too much and knowing too much, which would be wasteful and create more mess for you to clean up. Or you can let me do what you're clearly paying your cleaning crew too much money to not do properly, and then we can both pretend this conversation never happened." Another endless moment where her life hung in the balance. Then Kang Dae-van laughed, a real laugh, rich and genuinely amused. "You have titanium nerves, Cynthia Johnson. I respect that." He moved to his desk, pressed a button. "Cancel my 2 o'clock. And send up industrial cleaning supplies to my office. The specialized kind. The kind for cleaning up crime scenes," Cynthia's mind translated. "You have 1 hour," he told her. "Impress me." Cynthia had cleaned up after her uncle's business dealings enough times to know exactly what to do. While Kang made phone calls in Korean, discussing what sounded like shipment routes and payment schedules, she systematically eliminated every trace of whatever had happened in that bathroom. She didn't look at the body bag the security team discreetly removed. She didn't ask questions. She just worked, and she made damn sure she did it perfectly. Because somewhere in this office was the evidence she needed, and she'd just bought herself access to the most dangerous man in New York's inner circle. "Efficient," Kang observed when she finished, the office spotless and smelling faintly of lemon cleaner instead of copper and death. "Thorough. My regular crew takes 3 hours and still misses things. You did it in 45 minutes. Like I said, I'm good at my job." Cynthia started packing her supplies, mind racing. She needed to get out, regroup, figure out how to leverage this. "How much are they paying you?" She blinked. "Sir. Your salary." "How much?" $15 an hour." His jaw tightened. "Insulting. How would you like a new position?" "Private cleaner for the executive floor. $25 an hour, benefits, and you work directly for me. Which means you clean what I tell you to clean, when I tell you to clean it, and you forget everything you see." "Understood." It was a test. It was also an opportunity. "Understood," Cynthia said. "But I have one condition." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "You're in no position to negotiate." "Aren't I?" "You need someone smart, discreet, and capable. Someone who isn't afraid of you and won't fall apart when things get messy. Someone who sees details everyone else misses." She met his eyes steadily. "That's worth more than 25 an hour. 30, and I want access to the executive gym and cafeteria. If I'm going to work these hours, I need to eat properly and stay in shape." What she really needed was access to more areas of the building. But he didn't need to know that. Kang studied her for a long, tense moment. Then that dangerous smile returned. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the most foolish." "I've been called both," Cynthia said steadily. $30. You start tomorrow, 6 a.m. "And Cynthia?" He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. "The moment I think you're playing me, the moment I suspect you're anything other than what you claim to be, you'll disappear so completely that not even your dental records will be found. Are we clear?" She should have been terrified. She was. But she was also exhilarated. "Crystal," she said. "Good. Now get out of my sight before I change my mind about how useful you are." Cynthia had made it to the elevator, her hands finally starting to shake with delayed adrenaline, when his voice stopped her. "Actually, Cynthia. One more thing." She turned. Kang Dae-van was standing in his office doorway, backlit by the setting sun, looking like some dark avenging angel. And his expression had shifted into something she couldn't read. That fire, he said quietly. The one you're trying so hard to hide behind those fake glasses and cheap clothes. I see it. And I'm going to find out exactly what's burning inside you. Then he was gone, the office door closing with a soft click that sounded like a cell door locking. Cynthia made it to the street before her knees buckled, and she had to catch herself against a building. What the hell had she just done? She'd been made, or partially made, by the most dangerous man in New York. She should run. Abort the mission. Disappear. But she'd also just gotten closer to Kong Dae-van in one day than 3 years of planning had achieved. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tomorrow. 6 a.m. Don't be late. And Cynthia? Lose the fake glasses. I prefer to see the real you. K. She looked up at the tower, at the top floor where she knew he was probably watching. And despite everything, the danger, the fear, the absolute insanity of what she was doing, Cynthia smiled. Game on. Are you obsessed with this story yet? Hit that like button if you're already rooting for Cynthia. And comment below, Team Cynthia or Team Devon. Don't forget to subscribe because this romance is about to get so much darker and steamier. Trust me, you don't want to miss what Dae-van does when he discovers Cynthia's real identity. Now, back to the story. Cynthia didn't sleep that night. Instead, she sat in her tiny Brooklyn apartment, surrounded by 3 years of research, photos, documents, testimony from the women her mother had treated at the clinic. Women with chemical burns. With permanent scarring. With chronic illnesses from the toxic cosmetics that had been donated to low-income communities as luxury samples. Her mother's face stared back at her from one photo, Dr. Kayamika Namdi, brilliant dermatologist and humanitarian, testifying before a grand jury. The case had gone nowhere. The trail had gone cold. Kong Industries lawyers had buried everything under layers of shell corporations and plausible deniability. 3 months later, her mother's clinic had mysteriously burned down. Ruled accidental. Cynthia knew better. And now she was walking into the lion's den voluntarily, with the lion himself watching her every move. Her phone rang at 5:30 a.m. Unknown number. I know you're awake, Kong Devon's voice poured through the speaker like whiskey, smooth and burning. I also know you live at 347 Bergen Street, 3rd floor, and you've been sitting at your kitchen table for the past 6 hours looking at something that's making you very, very angry. Cynthia's blood froze. She moved to her window. Across the street, in a black sedan, she could see the silhouette of a man watching her building. Are you having me followed? She didn't bother hiding the fury in her voice. I have everyone who works for me followed. Especially the interesting ones. She could hear the smile in his voice. You're very interesting, Cynthia. MIT graduate, biochemistry major, daughter of Dr. Kayamika Namdi, the same Dr. Namdi who tried and failed to sue my company 3 years ago. Should I go on? The bottom dropped out of Cynthia's world. He knew. He'd known from the beginning. Then why? Her voice came out strangled. Why did I hire you? Why haven't I killed you? Devon's voice dropped lower, intimate and deadly. Because I want to know what you're really after, Cynthia Namdi. And because when I saw you standing in my office, lying to my face with such beautiful conviction, I felt something I haven't felt in a very long time. What? Curiosity. Desire. The thrill of meeting an equal. A pause. Get in the car, Cynthia. We need to talk. Really talk. And if you run, I'll find you within an hour. You know I will. She should run anyway. She should call the police, the FBI, anyone. But Cynthia had learned long ago that the system didn't protect people who looked like her, and it certainly didn't touch people like Kong Dae-van. The only person she could rely on was herself. So she grabbed her jacket and went downstairs. The sedan was warm, leather seats and the smell of expensive cologne. Dae-van sat in the back, dressed in a black suit that looked like sin personified. Drive, he told the driver, then turned his full attention to Cynthia. You're not recording this conversation. I had you scanned before you got within 10 feet of the car. Of course you did. You think I killed your mother? It wasn't a question, but Cynthia answered anyway. I think you ordered your people to destroy her clinic because she was getting too close to exposing your contaminated cosmetics operation. I think you've been poisoning poor communities with toxic products for years, writing it off as charity while making millions from your luxury lines. You're partially right, Defies said, and his admission shocked her into silence. There was a contaminated shipment. There were products that never should have reached the market, let alone been donated to clinics. But I didn't order it, Cynthia. I didn't even know about it until 6 months after your mother testified. Convenient. And I'm supposed to believe you? No. You're supposed to listen. His jaw tightened. 3 years ago, my VP of product development, a woman named Mafia Park, was running a side operation, cutting costs on ingredients and pocketing the difference. When product testing flagged the contamination, she buried the reports and diverted the entire shipment to charity donations to dispose of the evidence. By the time I discovered it, the damage was done. Cynthia's mind raced. Mafia Park, the same woman who'd sent her to Defies' office yesterday. And what did you do about it? She challenged. What do you think the blood in my office was from yesterday? Defies' eyes were cold. Mafia had gotten sloppy again. Another contaminated batch, another attempt to cover it up. I don't tolerate people who hurt innocents for profit, Cynthia. Especially not people who do it using my company. You killed her. I had her removed from the situation, yes. No remorse in his voice. She's currently in a private facility in upstate New York, where she'll remain for the rest of her natural life. Death would have been kinder, but I wanted her to live with what she'd done. Cynthia's hands shook. My mother's clinic was not my doing. But it was my responsibility to find out whose doing it was. Defies pulled out a tablet, handed it to her. 6 months of investigation. Names, dates, bank transfers. Mafia hired local thugs to torch the clinic when she realized your mother had physical evidence of the contamination. I found the men responsible. They've been dealt with. The files on the tablet were extensive. Detailed. Damning. And they confirmed everything he was saying. Why? Cynthia's voice cracked. Why would you investigate? Why would you care? For the first time, something like emotion flickered across Defies' face. Because my mother died from contaminated cosmetics when I was 15. A knockoff luxury cream made in a basement in Seoul, full of lead and mercury. It destroyed her skin, got into her bloodstream. She spent 3 years dying slowly, in agony, while I was powerless to help her. He looked out the window at the city waking up around them. I built Kong Industries to create products that would never harm anyone. To set standards so high that no one in the industry could get away with what was done to my mother. And when I found out that someone in my own company had done exactly that, his hands clenched into fists. I made it my mission to destroy everyone involved and make sure it never happened again. I don't know whether to believe you, Cynthia whispered. I don't care if you believe me. I care about what you do next. Defies turned to face her fully. You have 2 choices, Cynthia. Take that evidence, give it to the prosecutors, finally get justice for those women and your mother's legacy. I'll cooperate fully. I'll testify. I'll hand over everything. And the second choice? His eyes burned into hers. Work with me. Use that brilliant mind not for revenge, but for prevention. I need someone in my R&D department who actually gives a damn about safety, about ethics, about making sure this never happens again. Someone I can trust to be my eyes and ears, to question everything, to never let me become complacent. You want me to work for you? After everything? I want you to work with me. As my director of product safety. Full access to every formula, every supplier, every lab. The power to shut down anything that doesn't meet your standards. And, he paused. I want you to teach me to be better than I am. Cynthia stared at him. You're insane. Probably. I'm also serious. Defies pulled out another document. There's something else you should know. Your mother's clinic. I bought the property through a trust. I've been funding the rebuild for the past year. It'll reopen next month as the Dr. Kayamika Namdi Community Health Center, with a full dermatology wing and cosmetic safety research lab. Staffed, funded, and ready to serve the same community she dedicated her life to. Tears burned in Cynthia's eyes. Why? Because it was the right thing to do. And because, for the first time, Devan looked almost vulnerable. Because I hoped that someday, the daughter who loved her might see it and know that not everyone in this industry is a monster. The car had stopped. Cynthia looked out to find they were at Kong Industries Tower. So what's it going to be, Cynthia Namdi? Devan asked. Justice through the courts, which we both know will take years and might not result in real change? Or justice through action, by making sure nothing like this ever happens again? It was manipulation. It was a calculated move by a man who'd built an empire on strategy and power. It was also, Cynthia's instinct screamed, the truth. I have conditions, she said. That dangerous smile returned. Of course you do. Full transparency. Access to everything, no restricted files. I report directly to you, and I have the authority to override any decision I deem unsafe. And, she met his eyes. You fund 5 more clinics like my mother's. In communities that need them. Done, and done. Devan extended his hand. Do we have a deal? Cynthia looked at his hand, the hand of a killer, a criminal, a man who operated in shadows and moral gray zones. The hand that was also offering her everything she'd wanted, justice, purpose, and the power to actually make a difference. She shook it. We have a deal. But Devan? She used his first name deliberately, watching his eyes flare with something hot and dangerous. I'm not afraid of you. And I won't let you use me. The second I think you're playing me, I'll burn your entire empire down and smile while I do it. His fingers tightened on hers, and he pulled her closer, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes, close enough to feel the heat radiating from him. You know what, Cynthia? I believe you. And God help me, that's exactly why I'm going to do something completely insane. What? Right there in the back of the car, with the morning sun streaming through the windows, Kong Devan did the last thing Cynthia expected. He pulled a black velvet box from his jacket pocket and opened it, revealing a ring that glinted in the sunlight. Marry me. Cynthia's brain short-circuited. I'm sorry, what? Marry me, he repeated calmly, as if proposing to a woman he'd met 24 hours ago was perfectly rational. I need a wife to solidify certain business alliances. You need legitimacy and protection to do the work you're planning to do. My enemies will see you as a weakness to exploit if you're just an employee. As my wife? You'd be untouchable. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard. Is it? Think about it strategically. You get access to everything, my resources, my connections, the power to make real change. I get someone by my side who'll never bow to pressure, never compromise her ethics, and who'll keep me from becoming the monster I'm always at risk of becoming. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. Plus, my family is pressuring me to marry a suitable Korean woman from an appropriate background. Showing up with a brilliant, beautiful black woman with an MIT degree and a spine of steel? That's the ultimate power move. So I'm a rebellion strategy? You're a lot of things, Cynthia. A rebellion, a salvation, a challenge I can't walk away from. His voice dropped lower. And if I'm being honest? When you looked at me in my office yesterday, not with fear but with fire, I felt something I'd convinced myself I'd never feel. A connection. Recognition. Like finding the other half of something I didn't know was broken. Cynthia's heart hammered against her ribs. This was crazy. Insane. Completely irrational. But when had she ever played it safe? This would be a business arrangement, she said carefully. A marriage of convenience. Of course. Separate bedrooms. If that's what you want. The heat in his eyes suggested he hoped she might want otherwise, eventually. And I can end it whenever I choose. If I want out, you let me walk away, no threats, no consequences. Something flickered in Devan's expression, almost like pain, but he nodded. Agreed. Though I should warn you, Cynthia. I'm not a good man. I've done things that would horrify you. I operate in a world of violence and moral compromise. Being associated with me, being married to me, will paint a target on your back. I've had targets on my back my whole life, Cynthia said. For being black, for being a woman, for being smarter than men who couldn't handle it. At least this time, I'll have the weapons to fight back. Is that a yes? Cynthia looked at the ring, a black diamond surrounded by smaller white ones, unusual and striking and somehow perfect. She looked at the man holding it, this dangerous, damaged, complicated man who just offered her everything she needed to fulfill her mother's legacy. And she thought about what her mother would say. Dr. Kayamika Namdi had always taught her, use every tool available, fight on every front, and never apologize for being strategic. Yes, Cynthia said. I'll marry you. But Devan? I'm going to change you. I'm going to push you toward the light even when you want to stay in the shadows. And if you ever betray me, ever use me, ever make me regret this decision? She smiled, sweet and deadly. I know where you sleep, I know how to make toxins that can't be traced, and I'm my mother's daughter. I will end you. Devan laughed, a real, genuine laugh that transformed his face from intimidating to devastatingly handsome. Cynthia Namdi, he said, sliding the ring onto her finger where it fit perfectly, I think you might be the death of me. But what a beautiful death it'll be. He kissed her hand, his lips warm against her skin, and Cynthia felt electricity shoot through her entire body. What the hell had she just agreed to? The engagement announcement hit the news like a nuclear bomb. Kong Industries CEO engaged to mystery woman. Who is Cynthia Namdi? Everything we know about Kong Devan's surprise fiancé. From MIT to Mafia, the unconventional love story taking New York by storm. Cynthia sat in her new office, because yes, Devan had immediately promoted her to Director of Product Safety with a corner office on the 51st floor, and watched her life explode across social media. Her phone had been ringing non-stop. Friends from college she hadn't spoken to in years. Distant relatives suddenly very interested in her life. And reporters, so many reporters. You look shell-shocked, a voice said from her doorway. Cynthia looked up to find a man who could have been Devan's brother, same sharp features, same dangerous aura, but slightly younger and with a more approachable smile. You must be Jae-sung, she said, recognizing Devan's cousin and head of security from her research. Here to vet the new fiancé? Here to welcome you to the family and warn you what you're getting into. Jae-sung came in, closed the door. Can I be honest? Please. I've known Devan my entire life. I've seen him with women, lots of women. Models, heiresses, businesswomen, you name it. He treats them well, spoils them, then gets bored and moves on within a few months. Jae-sung's expression grew serious. But the way he looks at you? I've never seen that before. Like you're a puzzle he's desperate to solve, a challenge he's terrified to lose. It's either going to save him or destroy him, and I genuinely don't know which. Not sure if that's reassuring or terrifying. Both. Definitely both. Jae-sung handed her a folder. Security briefing. There are currently 6 active threats against Devan from rival organizations. By marrying him, you've inherited those threats. You'll have a protection detail 24/7, starting today. Cynthia flipped through the folder. Russian mob, Chinese triads, a rogue Korean faction, 2 rival American crime families, and, she paused, the Calabrese family. The Italian Mafia? Why are they? Devan refused to marry Sofia Calabrese, daughter of the East Coast Don. It was a strategic alliance their families had discussed, but Devan kept putting it off. Then yesterday, he calls Don Calabrese and says, sorry, I'm marrying someone else. Jae-sung grimaced. Sofia is not a woman who takes rejection well. And her father takes disrespect even less well. Perfect. As if this situation wasn't complicated enough. There's something else, Jae-sung said quietly. Devan's family is flying in from Korea for an emergency meeting. His father, his 3 brothers, his aunt who basically runs the Korean branch of operations. They're not happy about this engagement. Because I'm black. Because you're not who they chose. The racism is just their excuse. Jae-sung met her eyes. They're going to try to break you, Cynthia. To test you, intimidate you, make you run. Devans warned them off, but his family doesn't scare easily. Neither do I, Cynthia said firmly. Good. You're going to need that fire. He stood to leave, then paused. For what it's worth. I think you're exactly what Devan needs. Someone who sees him clearly, all the darkness, all the danger, and doesn't flinch. Just, be careful. The people we love are always our greatest vulnerability. After he left, Cynthia sat in the silence of her office and really processed what she'd done. She'd agreed to marry a mafia boss. She'd put herself in the crosshairs of multiple criminal organizations. She'd committed to a man she barely knew, whose world was violence and moral compromise. Her phone buzzed. A text from Devan. Dinner tonight. My penthouse. 8 p.m. We need to discuss the engagement party and other matters. Dress code, whatever makes you feel powerful. D. Cynthia looked at the black diamond on her finger, catching light and throwing shadows. There was no turning back now. Devan's penthouse was exactly what Cynthia expected, sleek, modern, expensive, and surprisingly tasteful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, minimalist furniture, and art that was actually interesting rather than just pricey. You're early, Devan said, emerging from what she assumed was his bedroom. He'd changed from his suit into dark slacks and a black button-down that did absolutely unfair things to his physique. Cynthia had chosen an emerald green dress that hugged her curves and made her skin glow, armor disguised as fashion. I'm punctual. There's a difference. His eyes traveled over her slowly, appreciatively. You're breathtaking. I'm dressed appropriately for a business dinner. Is that what this is? He moved closer, and Cynthia felt that electricity again, that pull she absolutely couldn't afford to feel. Because I was hoping it might be more. Devan. I know. Business arrangement. Separate bedrooms. Marriage of convenience. He said it like the words tasted bitter. But Cynthia, I need you to understand something. I don't do anything by half measures. When I commit fully. This started as strategy, yes. But every moment I spend with you makes it feel like something else entirely. Cynthia's breath caught. We've known each other 2 days. I've known soldiers who bonded for life in 2 hours under fire. Time is relative. His hand came up, fingers barely brushing her cheek. I'm not asking you to love me. I'm not even asking you to trust me yet. I'm just asking, don't close the door on the possibility that this could become real. She should say no. Should maintain boundaries. Should remember this was all part of her mission to honor her mother's memory and protect others. But when Devan looked at her like that, like she was something precious and dangerous and infinitely fascinating, her carefully constructed walls trembled. I won't close the door, she whispered. But I won't walk through it yet either. Fair enough. He stepped back, and Cynthia could breathe again. Come. I have something to show you before dinner. He led her through the penthouse to a locked room. Inside was a fully equipped chemistry lab, professional grade, everything she'd need for cosmetic development and safety testing. I had it installed this afternoon, Devan said. I know you'll have the company labs, but I thought you might want space to work privately. To develop your own formulas, to experiment without corporate oversight. Cynthia walked through the lab, touching the equipment with something like reverence. This is too much. Not enough? Tell me what else you need. It's perfect. She turned to him, and for the first time, let him see genuine warmth in her expression. Thank you, Devan. Really. Anything for you, Cynthia. Anything to see that light in your eyes. Dinner was surprisingly normal. Thai takeout because neither of them felt like formal dining, eaten at his breakfast bar while they discussed the engagement party planned for 2 weeks out. It'll be a circus, Devan warned. Every major player in New York's underworld and legitimate business communities. Politicians, judges, competitors, allies, enemies. Everyone will be watching to see if you're strong enough to stand beside me. Let them watch, Cynthia said. I've spent my life being underestimated, I'm good at using it as a weapon. I believe it. He refilled her wine. There's something else. My father wants to meet you before the party. Tomorrow night, private dinner, just the immediate family. How immediate? Father, 3 brothers, and my aunt. My mother passed away, as I mentioned. My Aunt Minji essentially raised us and runs the Korean operations. His jaw tightened. She's going to be challenging. Challenging how? She believes the family should stay pure Korean, marry within our community, maintain traditional values. She's going to see you as a threat to everything she values. And your father? Pragmatic. He'll judge you on your usefulness to the family business and your ability to handle pressure. Impress him, and you'll have his support. Show weakness, and he'll insist I break the engagement. Cynthia lifted her chin. Then I'll impress him. Devon's smile was proud and possessive. That's my queen. The word sent shivers down Cynthia's spine. Queen. Was that really what she was becoming? The queen to his dark king? Later, as they stood on his balcony overlooking the glittering city, Devan asked the question she'd been dreading. Are you still looking for evidence against me, Cynthia? Still planning to take me down? She could lie. Should lie. But something about the vulnerability in his voice, the genuine curiosity without threat, made her choose honesty. I don't know, she admitted. I came here for revenge. For justice. To destroy the person I thought was responsible for my mother's pain. But you're not who I expected. This, she gestured between them, isn't what I expected. So I'm trying to figure out what justice really looks like now. And if it still means destroying me? Then I'll give you the courtesy of telling you first. She met his eyes. That's more than most people in your world would do. Yes. It is. He reached out, tucked a curl behind her ear. You're honest in a world of liars, Cynthia. It's like finding a diamond in a coal mine. Precious and out of place and worth protecting at all costs. I don't need protection. Everyone needs protection. Even queens. Especially queens. His thumb brushed over her bottom lip. Let me be your shield, Cynthia. Your weapon. Your partner in whatever war you're fighting. And what do you get out of it? You, he said simply. The chance to be something better than what I am. The hope that maybe, just maybe, I can build something good instead of just destroying what's bad. Cynthia's heart hammered. This was dangerous, so much more dangerous than any physical threat. Because she was starting to care. Starting to see the man beneath the monster. Starting to imagine what it might be like to actually fall for Kang Dae-van. I should go, she whispered. You should stay. His forehead rested against hers. But I won't force it. I meant what I said, Cynthia. You're free to walk away whenever you choose. She should walk away. Right now. Instead, she stayed on that balcony for 3 more hours, talking about everything and nothing, learning about the boy who'd watched his mother die and built an empire from grief and rage, sharing stories about her own mother's brilliance and dedication. And when Devon's driver finally took her back to Brooklyn at midnight, Cynthia realized with dawning horror that she was falling for him. The enemy. The target. The man who might just be her salvation or her destruction. The Kang family dinner was held at Devon's father's estate in the Hamptons, because of course it was. Cynthia arrived in the car Devan sent, wearing a stunning gold dress that her best friend had helped her pick out. Go in there and show them who's boss, her friend had said. You're a genius, you're gorgeous, and you're about to marry the most powerful man in New York. Act like you know it. So Cynthia walked into that mansion with her head high and her armor firmly in place. The Kang family was waiting in the formal dining room, and the temperature dropped about 20 degrees when she entered. Kang Dae-young, Devon's father, was an older, harder version of his son, all sharp edges and calculating eyes. The 3 brothers, Dae-hyun, Min-jun, and Tae-young, ranged from early 20s to early 30s, each assessing her like a potential threat. And Aunt Min-ji, elegant in traditional Korean dress, looked at Cynthia like she was something diseased that had wandered in from the street. So, Min-ji said in perfect but accented English, this is the woman who has bewitched our Dae-van. This is Cynthia Namdi, Devan said firmly, his hand on the small of Cynthia's back, a gesture of support and possession. My fiancée. And you will all treat her with the respect she deserves. Respect is earned, nephew, Minji said coldly. Not demanded. Then let me earn it, Cynthia said calmly, meeting the older woman's eyes. I understand you have concerns about my background, my race, my suitability for this family. So let's address them directly. Yes, I'm black. Yes, I'm American. Yes, I don't come from your world. But I'm also an MIT-trained biochemist with a perfect academic record. I speak 3 languages including Korean. She switched to flawless Korean. And I understand the importance of family honor and strategic alliances better than you might think. The brothers looked impressed. Dae-young's eyebrows rose. Minji's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Korean, she responded in the same language. Where did you learn? I minored in Asian languages and business culture. I believe in understanding the worlds I'm entering. Cynthia switched back to English. I know this engagement wasn't what you planned for Devan. But I'm not a weakness. I'm an asset. I bring skills, connections, and a perspective that can help this family expand into new markets and legitimize operations that currently exist in gray areas. Legitimize? Dae-hyun, the eldest brother, spoke up. You think we need to be legitimate? I think the world is changing, Cynthia said. And families that don't adapt get left behind or destroyed. Your nephew understands that. It's why he built Kong Industries into a billion-dollar corporation with actual products and real market value, not just a front for illegal operations. You speak boldly for an outsider, Minji said. I speak honestly. Which is apparently rare in your world. Cynthia took a seat at the table without being invited, another power move. So let's be honest. You're going to test me tonight. You're going to throw everything you can at me to see if I break. You might even threaten me. But here's what you need to understand. I don't scare easily, I don't break under pressure, and I'm exactly the kind of partner Devan needs. Someone who'll challenge him. Someone who'll keep him grounded. Someone who'll make sure he builds a legacy instead of just maintaining an empire. The silence was deafening. Then Kang Dae-young started to laugh, a real, genuine laugh. She has fire, son, he said to Devan. And intelligence. I approve. Father, Minji started. I approve, Dae-young repeated firmly. She's right about the changing world. And she's right about needing someone strong beside Devan. This one, he nodded at Cynthia. She'll survive the life. The question is, will you love her enough to protect her from it? Devan's hand found Cynthia's under the table, squeezed gently. With everything I am. The dinner that followed was still tense, still full of subtle tests and pointed questions, but Cynthia had passed the first hurdle. She'd earned Dae-young's approval, and in this family, that mattered most. Later, as Devan walked her to the car, he pulled her close. You were magnificent, he murmured against her hair. Absolutely magnificent. I was terrified. You hid it perfectly. He pulled back to look at her. Cynthia, I need to tell you something. Something I haven't told anyone. Her heart raced. What? I'm falling for you. Not because of strategy or convenience or any rational reason. I'm falling for your fire, your brilliance, your refusal to bow to anyone. And it terrifies me because people I care about become targets. Become leverage against me. Devan. Let me finish. If you want out, if this is too much, tell me now. Before I'm so far gone that losing you would destroy me. Cynthia looked up at this powerful, dangerous, damaged man who was offering her his heart like a grenade with the pin already pulled. And she made a choice. I'm falling too, she whispered.